Okay. This really, to be frank, is really not news at all. And a lot of people have already known that a lot of these schools like this were not really being honest and they were not letting people in and kids who are on the VIP list. So Harvard has been exposed for lies, VIP kids, low grades, and they still got in this school. They let in it to somebody that went there. Uh, or they know somebody who works there. And they're all giving each other a pat on the back. So this is out of the US. Yahoo. A lawsuit has exposed Harvard's what they call it a Z list, which some people suspect helps VIP kids who don't have the grades to get in. And so we as in especially people who are in people of color know that a lot of these schools have given like a pat on the back to some of the, chosen ones that they pick. There's a lot of favoritism. So, and also a lot of that has to do with the racism and also classism. The 2019 to about 50 Anna Mona pronounce them correctly, so excuse me for that. Mitch Smith at the New York Times report students who for 1 year, but plaintiffs in the law legacies. Okay, let's explain. Harvard. So if you have a parent that attended Harvard, even if you have low scores, there's a stronger chance that you will go to that school and wouldn't otherwise make the cut. Okay. Okay, so legacies, meaning parents attended Harvard and wouldn't otherwise. Okay. All right, so Business Insider has previously America's hardest college to get in. And so this is one of the hardest colleges to get into university. It's very prestigious with an acceptance rate of 5.2%. So the lawsuit brought by an anti-affirmative action group of students for fairness and admissions accuses Harvard of discriminating against. And who did they discriminate against? We shall see. Okay, so this is the full article. So I am actually trying. So policies. Okay. Documents that reveal some surprising policies, reports the New York Times. For example, further enrollment at Harvard by 1 year. Plaintiffs in the lawsuit say the Z list is a students into the college even if they wouldn't otherwise qualify academically. So Harvard disagrees, saying that the Z has a disproportionate number of legacies because the legacy students might be more inclined to accept their spot on the list. And so there's big lawsuit over this stuff. So among Harvard students, like I said, in the classes, about 50 to 60 students each year were admitted off the Z list. So Anna Mona, Harticolis, and Amy Harmon and Mitch Smith at the New York Times report. So students who are on that Z list must defer their enrollment for 1 year. But plaintiffs in the lawsuit against Harvard say many of the students are legacy students, meaning their parents attended Harvard and wouldn't otherwise make the cut. So Business Insider has previously reported that Harvard University is America's hardest school to actually acceptance rate of 5.2%. The lawsuit brought by an anti-affirmative action group, Students for Admissions, accuses Harvard of discriminating against you-know-who, Asian students in admissions, the New York Times reports. So many admission documents have been filed revealing aspects of Harvard's admissions process previously known as by the general public E-list. So an independent student reported on the Z-list in 2000 gathered information about 36 of the roughly 80 E-list students at Harvard between 2001 and found that 26 of those students, 72%, were legacy students compared to 12% to 14% of the entire class. So that's a high number. Got in and they were related to somebody who previously. So another Crimson article, E-list published in 2010, reported that 18 of the 28 Z-listers interviewed had parents attended Harvard and 24 received no financial. So the Crimson reported that about 70% of the Harvard student body received financial aid. Harvard disagrees that the Z. So that's what they to say. Harvard's is not a way to admit legacy students. Reports that William R. Fitzsimmons, dean financial aid, said that the Z list has to the class as a whole because legacy students might be more inclined to accept their spot on the list. So Fitzsimmons also told the Crimson that the Z-list admissions are need blind, but many students can't afford to take a year off before starting college, so they might not accept their spot. And let's see, it goes on to say that Fitzsimmons said that the Z list began in 1970, though it didn't have back in the lawsuit say that Asian American candidates are often described as intelligent but unexceptional in their personal ratings, according to the Times. So other revelations about Harvard admissions since the suit was filed, according to the Times, include the existence of a dean's interest list or a director's interest list. Those lists identify candidates who had connections to Harvard. Fitzsimmons told the Crimsons in 2000, Z-list are than the rest of the admitted students. So we are 100% sure that we want them here next year and not 99%, he said, one of the Z-listed students. And so this is right here. It says Asian American hurts their chances schools. And so this is a picture right here. Excuse that interruption earlier. Somebody was talking to me. But anyway, it's kind of sad because all this So what are your thoughts on that? Does it seem fair that they do? I really don't believe it's fair. I think that, they should, treat everybody the same. If you're going to treat one student where it needs to see their academics in order for them to, even the students that had a parent that attended there or a sister or brother or whatever previous, I think they should do everybody the same way. Don't in another group of students another way. They, the students that really get in there to get their grades to the way that they needed to be, they worked really hard for that. And so students who didn't have that GPA and didn't work that hard for it, it's unfair. And so that's what you're going to get too in the workplace. And of course, that's what some of us are already seeing, the way some bosses are, somehow wherever they are. And some of that is because of skin, believe it or not. And that is the reason. And they were given those jobs over someone else who had to actually do a lot of work and still probably have to do a lot of work to prove themselves. And so, what are your thoughts, your comments back on this? So, I'm going to thanks for listening.